Welcome to ICCG's Close-Up, sponsored by Round World Solutions, where Fortune 1000 CXOs share their enterprise strategies for competing and winning in the global economy. Our wide-ranging topics include big data, governance, supply chain analytics, enterprise mobility, and portfolio management. The goal of our interviews is to understand the CXO's area of focus, the challenges associated with that area, and their plans for confronting those challenges. The benefit to our participants is the creation of a virtual CXO knowledge pool, so CXOs can learn from each other and not have to reinvent the wheel. I'm your host, Ellis Booker.
Moving on into sort of some questions around governance, could you tell us about some of the data governance and the processes that you've instituted?
Yeah, around data governance, for us it's both governance, but there's also the whole notion of consent. Data around humans is needing to be managed by the individual who it's measured on. So, part of the data governance involves knowing whether or not that information can be broadly shared and how it can be accessed and by whom. So in our specific field, that is in the area where people are looking at how to advance personalized medicine, the whole issue of data governance in terms of access is probably one of those problems that will constantly evolve over the years ahead as both patients understand it better, who to give access to, and as organizations understand how best to leverage the access that is made available.
And data quality. Can you speak to at the point at which you were ready to do that, how you proceeded?
Absolutely. So governance isn't about setting up rules or trying to architect fields and data streams. Governance is about how you use and you keep and you repose and you search for data. Because data then becomes information. Once the information is converted, if you will, what do you do with that information? How important is it? What kind of security do you need around it? What levels does it find itself in? All these are governance questions, but they're governance questions that are probably less architectural and more atmospheric. Mm-hmm. So in being able to develop a governance plan as well as a series of governance activities around it, you kind of pull up the microscope a little bit instead of being too focused on structure, but really focused on utility and placement.
I know, Steve, you're our expert in governance questions. Do you have a follow-up for Mark?
Yes, it would be interesting, Mark, to know if you had any real challenges that you saw in terms of getting the verified and validated data, lessons learned, some advice you could maybe give us based on your experience.
Certainly, one of the things that were and still do intrigue us is our ability to somehow produce lots of overlapping data. And being able to, in fact, one of the things you find out in engineering school, I think Engineering 101 is they tell you never design systems that require synchronization. And yet, at the same time, overlapping data requires just that. It's synchronization. It's being able to know what you've already acquired and trying not to duplicate it just under some other different name or source. In normal database management, you would already use the structure of that database to keep yourself from overlapping data. But in warehouse management, where you're bringing in multiple sources, you have to figure out what you already have and how you can spin it, how you can use it, but also how you don't duplicate it and then create, in a sense, another set of false data because of that overlap. So one of the biggest challenges we found was keeping the overlap of the data from finding itself into the warehouse and therefore finding it into the intelligence information that is an outcome of that.
Hey, Steve.
Yes, Rick. Quick question around the data governance is how are you seeing data quality issues impact your overall data governance strategy?
Yeah, Steve, I think that's a huge and impactful part of our strategy, and certainly would be with any monetization strategy. And it's a problem that we have to partner with the business on, because it's not a completely 100% technical issue. We can't apply technology to that problem completely. So we have to partner with our business customers internally and have them help us develop processes and procedures that will improve data quality. We have to do that also in concert with their own schedules. So again, it's an IS almost led type function, and we're trying to evangelize that that's not necessarily the case. Really, that data quality is an organizational priority and not an IS one, and that part of the conversation is happening, and we need to have that. The other thing that we're doing is, from a technology perspective, implementing a master data management program to try to solve some of that disparate systems issue, where we have data in systems that don't talk to each other. So we're doing an MDM programs to put the technology forward to help solve those problems. But the complete answer to your question, Steve, is that it is an issue. It's always going to be an issue, and it needs to be addressed as an organizational priority and not necessarily just an IS one.
Casey, also is all these challenges that you're talking about obviously are going to create interesting needs around data governance. Could you sort of chat with us a bit about what you see as the big data governance requirements in healthcare at the moment?
Certainly. AHIM has been spending a lot of time over many years looking at data integrity, data governance, IT governance. And during our strategic planning sessions, probably a good 3 years ago, we decided that we really needed to look at a broader initiative than just data governance and really focusing on the clinical side of healthcare. So we really broadened the initiative, and now we're calling it information governance. And data governance is a piece of it, as well as IT governance. But we're really looking at all information that needs to be generated, preserved, collected, and then ultimately looking at the final disposition of that data stream. So whether it's clinical, financial, or operational, and wanting to make sure that there are rules, that there are protections around that type of data, and that it is controlled throughout the healthcare ecosystem. And we're looking at a whole model or framework that looks at the information governance principles for healthcare. So we've looked at information governance practices in business and industry, and then how they need to be adapted or modified to be successful in healthcare. And then we've developed an IG maturity model to look at where organizations are now and where they need to be, and what are the gaps that need to be mitigated. So we've come up with 100 attributes and a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being an organization that's really just beginning to look at this and wrap their arms around it, to an organization that's at a transformational stage. And we actually are, we've selected 20 pilot sites, so all different types and sizes and footprints of hospitals, health systems. We have some governmental agencies that have chosen to participate, along with payer groups.
Casey, how many of those transformational organizations has AHIMA found at this point? I don't know how many hospital organizations and medical practices there are, but of the 10 or 11 or 12,000 of them in the United States, something like that, what percentage are at that stage 5 right now?
Right. So we actually did a very comprehensive survey and looked at a number of organizations, and also sent the survey out to the C-suite, all different positions within the organization. And really, we didn't find anyone that was at that stage 5 in healthcare. So probably the highest rated organization was in maybe the 3 area, so somewhere in the middle. But even those organizations that, have really tried to organize themselves and focus around that. I know the organization that I worked at for many years, we did have a lot of good practices in place, but again, we were focused more on the clinical side of the equation, although we did do quite a bit with HR data, with financial data, and any information that was really touching the ERP system as well. So I felt like we probably had a better handle than many organizations do, but we were far from being at that transformational stage. And then the third component of our framework are tools and resources. So we have a lot of really good we have white papers. We've actually published 2 books on information governance, along with a number of books over the years on data integrity and all aspects from the master patient index issues and patient matching to patient identity and some of the challenges that come along with that. So we have a lot of tools and resources. A byproduct of the pilot project that we're launching is to test the maturity model, test the information governance principles for healthcare, and finally make sure that we've got the tools, the resources in order for the entire healthcare system to be successful in this. And we have collaborated. We're not doing this on our own. So we have collaborated with other associations, as well as even the Joint Commission on Accreditation for Hospitals as part of this. Governmental agencies have joined the effort. We've met with ONC, with CMS, the White House. So we have really gotten out there, and a lot of organizations, or all the organizations that we're working with, have really rallied around this effort and really feel that we're well positioned to take this to the next level.
Right. Sanjay, moving on to questions of governance and data governance. Can you tell us how that function is handled there at Experian? It seems like that's all you do, but what's your best practice for making sure you're handling the data properly?
Data accuracy and data security is the most important aspect of our business that could make or kill our business. So we at Experian pays a lot of attention to data accuracy and data security. Experian's search and match capability is the most accurate among the 3 credit bureaus under the de facto golden standards in our industry. However, we as a company continues to push the quality of our search and match to the next level. For example, recently, we have been working on bringing more data from different domains, from social media, from company registration, from credit card transaction files, from web registration files, to come up with the best business verification capabilities to weed out fraud transactions. So the key is that we keep pushing our accuracy and the security to the next level. We never stop. We never satisfy with what we have today.
Given the security is so important, is the governance a centralized organization, distributed across Experian's different lines? How's that handled?
Well, I think we have both models in play here. We have a company-wide centralized business security office, and each business unit, we have our own BSOs, business security officers. The security processes are well documented, and every employees are mandated to take trainings on a yearly basis. And any idiosyncrasies, we have a proper process to report, document, and investigate the idiosyncrasies in the data process.
Steve, I know you have a follow-up.
Yes. Do you have any other processes that are specifically geared to the data quality and validation? I know you spoke to how important quality and validation is. Do you have organizationally anything that's geared toward maintaining those processes around data quality and validation as well?
Sure, absolutely. Because for example, we pay close attention to the data accuracy. We even offer a service for our banking clients to any data providers to check the data they provided to us on an ongoing basis. We check each field to see the distribution. We check across time to see if what's the baseline, what's the variation uh, field by field to identify any data inaccuracies, any inaccuracy in the data, and flag them as this happens. In fact, we are doing such a good job. We even offer this as a paid service to some of the largest banks in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, John, you had mentioned it in terms of, as well as visualization, you had mentioned the term of data management and data governance. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of data quality or data security impacts you've seen?
Sure. Well, data quality is, I think, the elephant in the room for most organizations. And so if you look in our case, we have to maintain an internal customer ID, which is how we invoice our customers, right? But that only is impactful for us. Then, because we actually bill people by films, we have to maintain film IDs. If you think about it from an ERP perspective, in the order management system, the film is your item, and your customer ID is obviously your customer ID, and then the attendees are the number of units, and then, of course, you have a purchase price, which is our lease cost. However, that data doesn't necessarily align with everyone else's view. So if I go to a studio, they may have a particular name for a film that differs than what I use in my item master. If you take a location as an example, location data comes in from all kinds of different sources for us. There's third-party service providers. We also get it from exhibitors themselves. Studios maintain information about it. If I can't reconcile all those different names, right, I have no hope of representing that I have a clear picture of what's transpiring in the marketplace. So for us, data quality is on one hand about consistency, and on the second hand, it's really about the veracity of the data. So we have facilities in place where if we see anomalous entries of data into our environment, we provide notifications. An example of this would be we have a customer who has a location, but we put in the location data and we can't tie it to an existing location that we already have, and therefore we can't tie it to a customer, right? But I have perhaps film performance data and showtime information. So if that sort of data enters into the system, it's got to be corrected quickly, and in some cases we don't even allow it to be entered. This all dovetails with the initial point I made about getting your data right before you can visualize it. If you visualize it and people can identify that it's wrong, you lose all credibility. If you
So is it fair to say, John, that with visualization you might be less likely to make errors than if you weren't using a visualizing front end?
Less likely to make what kinds of errors are you referring to?
Well, incorrect correlations, for example. Is it less likely to draw incorrect correlations if you're using a visualizing tool?
Interesting point. I don't know if it's less likely or more likely. What I would postulate is that you can represent information, and if a consumer of that information doesn't understand what they're looking at, it's more likely that they'll make assumptions that are probably incorrect. So that's definitely the case, which means it's incumbent upon you as the provider to ensure that what's represented is concise, accurate, and easily understood.
On to governance questions, Ken. How does data quality play into your big data initiatives there at Sharp Healthcare?
Great question. We really are focusing on data governance, data definitions, data integrity and data quality. It's been a big area that we've begun to see some I don't know if I'd say issues, but just some challenges with as we start to look at data from an enterprise perspective. Typically, the data has been collected and entered at an individual site, and as they do analysis for that site, the meaning is pretty consistent, but as you start to look across sites, you begin to see that. So we're really investing heavily in identifying data ownership, data integrity, and as we get into big data, I think the challenges are going to be just as significant there. Although we are looking at potentially doing kind of a tiered approach. So if we start with big data technology and we start doing some simple queries or some insights, we may concern ourselves less initially about the data quality, data validity till we start to see some areas we really want to focus on. Then we might begin then looking at validating the data, making sure the integrity is there, the quality, and then get it into kind of a more structured format. So there'll be a little bit of a multi-tiered approach. The things that we're making significant business decisions on, we want to make sure that we've really vetted the quality of the data. Those things where we're just trying to gain some initial insights, focus, we may not have the controls and notes that we do in the other areas.
Mm-hmm. Steve, any follow-up for Ken on the governance topic?
Yes, Ken. What about data security as an issue for you around your data governance, data management challenges there?
Yeah, it's a significant item that we're dealing with. One of the aspects of putting in our data governance program is to kind of balance the need to increase people's access to the data, as well as trying to control, making sure people are not getting that data they shouldn't be. I think it's a constant struggle. Our job is to try to make information more available, but we have to be concerned about inappropriate access. And I think, as I said, even probably with the big data, we're probably going to have a little more or a little less control initially. As I said, we're not using it for business decisions. We're trying to see what insights we can gain. And then just like we're doing with the data quality, as we begin to look at how that data is really going to be used, and we start to implement the most appropriate controls on security and access. But it's a constant balance between making information available and also making sure you don't have inappropriate access.
I'm Scott Cunningham, Senior Director, Solutions and Delivery for Round World Solutions, the experts in integrated governance with project execution. Our unique 360-degree view enables us to give CXOs a comprehensive view of where they are today, where they would like to be, and delivers a powerful change management structure to ensure they accomplish their goals. ICCG Close-Up is an interview panel where CXOs share their views on big data, governance, and their most pressing issues. At the conclusion of the interviews, we will be compiling the results into an industry and issue-specific report to share with all of the interviewees, emphasizing common interests and future plans associated with those interests across industries. The benefits to our participating CXOs are the creation of a virtual CXO interactive knowledge base, highly scaled shared resources, and the ability to learn from each other without having to reinvent the wheel. Thank you for watching ICCG's Close-Up, sponsored by Round World Solutions. For more information about our CXO interview panels or to join the conversation, please visit us at www.roundworldsolutions.com. Thank you.